What if the single most popular exit strategy used by traders is actually destroying their edge without them even realizing it? Fixed take profits, they're absolutely everywhere. Take profit at 3R, exit at 5 points, close at 2%. It all seems logical. Set your target, lock in gains, and move on to the next trade. But here's what nobody tells you. Every time you use a fixed take profit, you're probably leaving a fortune on the table. In today's episode, we're going to be exposing why fixed take profits are one of the biggest mistakes in systematic trading. You'll discover how they contribute to overfitting, which is why your strategies never work live. We'll reveal why these arbitrary profit targets have nothing to do with what the market is actually doing. We'll break down the differences between reversion and diversion strategies and why mixing them up with fixed exits can destroy both. And lastly, here's the uncomfortable truth. Fixed take profits feel safe. They give you control. They let you say, I made exactly what I planned. But that comfort is precisely what is costing you real money. Let's get straight into this episode. One of the biggest mistakes I see with many traders creating strategies is they use fixed take profits that often leave a lot of profits on the table and destroy your kind of profitability of a particular strategies. So in this podcast, we kind of want to talk over the cons primarily of fixed take profits and potentially some of the pros, but at least in both our perspective, most of it is kind of con based. First, I'm going to start with the main one, at least for me. Actually, I guess it would be like the second main one, which is they're very, very easy to overfit. So when you're creating a strategy and you're backtesting that particular strategy, let's say I'm using a fixed take profit of 5 points on futures contracts. That's a really easy metric to go, I'm going to test it from 1 to 20 for this particular strategy and see which one is the most profitable. And that's what most people do. They'll keep on kind of changing it. Maybe let's try 6 points, let's try 7 points. And what that often just leads to is you've overfitted the strategy, meaning that it's fit to historical noise and it's not actually, creating any edge or found any edge. And that means it'll look beautiful in a historical backtest, but when you take that live, it's often not going to hold up at all. A very easy way to test this is parameter sensitivity. But even with that, another kind of con of it is that it depends how well you've done your in and out of sample testing and how much data you have. Because let's say I did a parameter sensitivity, meaning I test 1 to 10 for the take profit points, but I only am using 30 days of data. That pretty much doesn't really tell me anything because it's only 30 days of data. That's probably one of my main concerns. What about you, kind of Petna?
Yeah, following up on your easy to overfit, it's right. You are adding another degree of freedom, so you are adding another feature to your model. It's another dependency that you have that you're probably overfitting. Depending on the model, let's assume that you are developing like a mean reversion type model, something that crashes a lot or something like a burst of volatility, and you buy it or sell it and you expect it to converge to a fair value that you think it's fair. If you are using a rigid take profit, first it has nothing to do with the market, right? Let's say you have like a 380R or a fixed like target that you want to hit. What has that to do with anything that you're betting on? You think that something is mispriced or it's undervalued or overvalued, you bet against it or with it, and you try to convert. You try to express your views and expect it to converge with whatever assumption of fair value you have, right? And that assumption of fair is not stagnant; it's always changing. So if you use a fixed take profit, I think that's a very inefficient way to express your views on the market on something that is converging. If something is converging, you need to know when it's converging, not at the arbitrary point when you enter a position, right? Let's say that you have let's make a more complicated example, like you have a deviation between two assets that should trade together. And for example, let's say, I'm making it up, but let's say that is Microsoft and Apple, and Microsoft deviate way too much from Apple, and you think that both should be trading equally, and you buy Microsoft. Would you use a TP there? Like, no, you would try to understand what kind of fair value you think Microsoft should be trading at based on your model that you created, that both should be trading together. And then you would open that position until they converge with the fair value that you are expecting. So a fixed TP, I think, removes a lot of important information in the middle of that trade.
I couldn't have said it better. I think primarily a lot of this comes from that, especially when I've spoken with traders, they kind of view trading as a mechanism just to try and like fetch some money from this kind of stock market and then kind of retrieve it and then and go again. And like while inherently, yes, we're trying to take money from like the other people in the market, right? There has to be a reason for it. And just saying that, oh, okay, I want to make $200 per trade, there's no strategy reason or edge reason why that is a possibility and why that's going to hold up over a long enough time horizon. And most of the time, that's why I see at least the logical reasoning behind why someone uses like a fully fixed stop loss based on just because I want to make this much on kind of each trade. My next point is primarily the main con, I would say, of fixed stop losses, which is it caps P&L. So in certain strategy types, right, such as trend following, you don't really want a take profit. You more want something that is trailing or volatility based or an opposite signal, and that's going to give you the better long-term returns and be able to hold that particular winner for as long as possible. Because in trend following, you're not going to be making money for a lot of these kind of smaller trades, and there'll be one trade that gives you 10 off, for example. But if you, for whatever reason, set it that I'm going to take off every trade at 3R, you're kind of setting yourself up already for failure on a trend following system, because most trend following systems are low win rate and they do require a higher, average R, or those outlier trades that make up so much of the, risk to reward. And that's why that strategy kind of type can be profitable. So if you do that with fixed stop losses, for example, on trend following, it just kind of destroys the whole point.
Yeah, I heard it on a podcast. One guy that manages like a trend following strategies, and one thing he said it always stuck with me is that mean reversion models, for example, are convergent, are signals that converge, right? You are trying to converge that signal with your estimation of fair value. And trend following, momentum, whatever, are models that are divergent. So you are betting on that divergence from current price, from for like price discovery and stuff like that. So you are betting on that tail end of the distribution of returns, like those that positive skew, and you are taking a lot of losses, a lot of small wins, small losses all the time, but the majority of your returns, like 80% of your returns, come from a small percentage of your trades, right? And if you are adding a take profit, you are capping that tail, that skew. And if you do that on a trend model, yes, you'll probably have a higher win rate, but you're also making the model way weaker, and it doesn't make sense at all, because when you have like a trend signal, for example, you are betting that prices will persist going forward. So the prices went up now, and they will persist going up in the future. So a take profit signal is like the contradictory. I don't know the word, but the opposite of that. When you have a take profit, you are selling when the position should continue. How can I say, it should continue to persist forward. So you are actually taking the opposite signal of your strategy, and I think that's not a good solution in trend models.
Yeah, like also to apply this to kind of mean reversion, all of my mean reversion strategies and futures, they're all have some sort of layer of dynamic fair value, whether that be, moving average, whether that be based on volatility, whether that be opposite signal, like it has to close the other side of the Bollinger Band, etc. Like all of those are dynamically changing. So I'm never really just, submitting the trade order and then saying I'm going to take profit 5 pips above because that's going to be the kind of mean reversion. Because most of the time, especially when you're in the market, fair value is constantly changing. It's very hard to just set a fixed take profit and say, okay, this is where fair value is going to be. And most of the time it's incorrect unless you got a very, very good fair value model. And most of those fair value models that are really good are constantly changing based on tons of different factors. Obviously, you can just do a simple one like I do. So that can be moving averages, VWAP, etc. And they can be a great measure to see if something's extended away, and then you want to obviously take profit once it gets closer to that fair value for kind of mean reversion.
Yeah, so the next point would be there's better ways to look at the take profit, right? In traditional trend, the stuff that I run, I use trailing stops, not a fixed stop. Like if price touches it, you get out of position, but more if it closes below that trailing, it gets out of the position, and those allow positions to run and to express your views in a more natural way, at least in trend following models. In my view, it's like you only exit when there's an opposite signal for you to exit, and that's when you take profits or take your losses, whatever way, and you allow that like that positive skew that we were talking about to materialize itself, and you don't touch it, or you don't cap it, you just let positions run, and you adjust at those times.
For you personally, do you prefer the kind of trailing system to always be unique? So meaning it's like a different indicator or a different method. So like using just plain ATR, or do you always want it to be kind of built around what the strategy is using? So like if the strategy is using Bollinger Bands, do you want to trail it with like the lower band or something, or how do you kind of look at that?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't go around and pick like, oh, I'm going to use the Bollinger Band 20 here as an entry signal, and I'm going to use like a whatever Keltner channel to exit. I don't think that's a good solution. Yeah, ideally, you shouldn't even be wanting to use one indicator. You should be using like a composite of them, all of them together, combined. That's the optimal way.
Okay, so you're looking for like a difference in momentum score, for example, and then you're sort of exiting, at least for some strategies.
Exactly. So there's a mathematical way to get there, but if you put all of those signals together, like all of those indicators that are traditionally used for momentum or trend, and then they give you an exposure that you should have, and when they turn negative, you turn short, and when they turn positive, you turn long, and you take profits or add to positions that way.
I think actually one extra thing we could talk about here that is somewhat interesting because we've been working on it is around like being delta neutral and like how that maybe can apply to this because obviously you've been working really hard on this sort of delta neutral strategy. Do you want to kind of like explain a bit more about like how you've been thinking about it and how you've been going on?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to go into all the details, but in general, like when you are generating like a delta neutral or market neutral or whatever neutrality you want to have in the market, because there's different neutralities, but in this case it's market. You want your net exposure to that thing that you want to be neutral. Let's assume here market to be zero. So, for example, let's say that you are trading equities, right? And you want to have a long short book and you don't want any market exposure. So if the market goes up, it doesn't matter. You are just betting, trying to capture that momentum returns. What you do is you construct a portfolio with the top N coins and assets and the bottom N assets. And then you allocate to them together so that the net exposure is zero. Now, I'm not saying that the dollar exposure is zero because that's different. And that's a topic for another day, but your net exposure to that thing that you're trying to neutralize is zero. So, and now in practical terms, what does that achieve? Is that you are not, your portfolio is not bound directionally by the market. If the market is up, you're up. If the market is down, you're down. No, you're just extracting whatever factor or whatever effect you are trying to harvest there.
Yeah, I think perfectly put. And correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the time, a lot of these sort of strategies will slightly underperform the absolute returns sense of things, of like other strategies that have more volatility. But you are obviously getting the benefit of a lot less drawdown most of the time compared to a lot of other sort of strategies.
Oh yeah, they will definitely underperform in absolute returns because that market beta carries a lot of returns for other people, right? But during bad markets, especially in crypto, in equities you can get away with it, in my opinion, like because it's such a positive drift, right? Only in periods like 2008 and stuff like that, or 2020 when everything goes to zero, you get paid for it. But in crypto, it definitely is important to have a short leg, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it both acts like insurance, and then also you can have a sense where times like recently, which have been quite choppy and also I guess slightly trending downwards, you can do quite well with sort of delta neutral strategies, while most other strategies are somewhat underperforming or at least just going into drawdown.
And you have seen, like, I've shared with you the performance of the model. The market has been going down and down, and the model is just going up all the
Yeah.
time, right? Sure, we'll have drawdown soon. I don't expect this to be you, but it's the perfect use case. But again, during a raging like bull market, I'll be the one like not on the sidelines directly because we have other things to capture that upside. But in this particular model, like the absolute returns won't be the same as running like a binary uh, traditional trend following model in one of those markets.
Yeah, completely. Which I think just speaks to again of like why running multiple strategies can be such a huge benefit, and also then knowing what your sort of risk profile is. Because if you're happy to kind of go through these periods which are going to have more underperformance, but then in the times where you do have like a really strong bull market, you'll be outperforming really well with a binary model. Then it's absolutely awesome. You just have to kind of handle the pain during the times like now.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are one of those traders that you eat what you kill, right? You want to have you want to have models that behave in all scenarios. I'm not saying that they must be money making machines like in bull, bear, whatever, stagnant, volatile, whatever, but at least that you can make some money every year, or at least aim for it every year in different types of models, and be more consistent over time instead of just running one thing and waiting for the period where it works. I've heard this many times, like as a discretionary alone trader, you don't have to pay, you don't have investors to respond to, you don't have anyone to respond to, you can run whatever you want. So make use of it.